Lights are on? Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Caucus.
Here.
Mrs. Passio.
Absent.
Mr. Runnemede.
Here.
Mr. Lobenstein.
Here.
Mr. Farrell.
Here.
Mrs. Kelly. Here. Mr. Sapira.
Here.
Mr. Long.
Here.
Mr. Vasor.
Here.
Ms. Straley. And didn't I see Harry? Harry.
Okay, public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act is given by the clerk in the following manner. One, posted on the bulletin board, the Borough Clerk's office on January 5th, 2022, and two, emailed to the retrospective Herald Post on January 5th, 2022. First order of business is Resolution 2295, a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the Department of Community Affairs. This is for $75,000 for public safety equipment, is that correct?
Yes, who was I find it?
Public safety work.
It's missing.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Right,
I'll
motion
second that.
by Ms. Kelly, second by Mr. Lobenstein. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Lobenstein.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Mr. Sapira.
Yes.
And Mr. Runnemede.
Yes.
5 ayes, 1 absent.
All right, the resolution is adopted. New business discussion for this meeting. Ordinance for Wawa, do not block the box. Is that the second and final reading? Is that what we're doing?
No, it'll be the first reading.
First reading.
Everybody approved it, the planning board solicitor, our own solicitor, our engineer, everyone looked at it.
Okay. Second order of business is property maintenance resolution. I believe this is what, for the grass cuttings and things like that? We'll put that on. Cancellation of state checks for court administrator, stale checks from court administrator resolution.
Yeah, they came from Cali.
Okay. Authorization of tax sale and cost resolutions. We do this every year. This is to do the electronic tax sale. Resolution for contract with ROK Industries for electronic tax sale. That's part of that. Resolution to purchase the Vector Vac Jet, I'm assuming, from Sourcewell. Does anybody want any discussion on that? Is that?
Well, I thought we had a back jet.
That's the small.
This is the small. This is the pull bar.
There's a truck, a large truck. Can't go some places, so we need a small.
Yeah, we've had this one longer than ever. This was we had this prior to having the truck. But the argument is by having the small one, it's good. And I believe we just got awarded that grant to pay for the backhoe, so this all makes everything work out. Is that correct?
Yeah, we tried to include this as well, but it was too old.
Okay. What was the amount of this this jet?
$78,875.21.
Okay.
So we did 149,000 for the, what was that thing that we just talked about?
The backhoe.
The backhoe.
Yes.
Okay,
But we're getting reimbursed for that.
yes. So this, we're putting the money out.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
75,000.
78,000.
It's a good, is it a good?
Sounds like a lot of money to me.
I know,
Well,
but it's the small one, not the big one. The big one we have,
the big one is the truck.
yes. And the small one is gonna be,
Trailer is cool.
Harry likes a lot of tools for every different everything. He doesn't
yeah,
like
but
this
he
one size
uses,
screwdriver.
he puts them to good use.
Did you
I
see
will
that?
say that.
No
I
one's
will
out
say
there.
that.
She's watching.
Harry, you put them to good use. You're out there all the time with that stuff. I see it.
Particularly on
The
Fourth
guys.
Avenue.
The guys.
Yes, yes.
I don't see anybody here for the ordinance for the murals in public art. Is there anyone here for that this evening?
Don't encourage it.
No? So, Mr. Ranieri, Ms. Kelly, I thought that you think they might be showing up tonight? Because we do have, at least for discussion, ordinance for the murals in public art. There's nobody here yet?
Russ said that he was coming.
Okay. Well, the only thing I'll say is, hopefully everyone feels the same way, that we gave them an opportunity to give us suggestions. I'm not opposed to waiting for them to give us suggestions.
Sure. We'll always have a hearing.
But they have
The
to
ordinance is the ordinance.
we can always amend
We
parts.
can always amend.
But,
But right now, they have issues with that ordinance.
okay, so is your opinion to move forward, or you want to wait for them to give us something back? I'm okay with waiting for
Well,
them.
we have some time, and I'll tell you why.
Let's see how next week goes.
Well, so that's part of it, but remember, we did pass this on first reading. So we only need to advertise it for a public hearing, and that wouldn't be able to occur until the next caucus meeting at the earliest. So we do have a luxury of time here, but what I would suggest is I'll reach out to the group and indicate to them, well, one, who to contact, maybe a friendly reminder on what the expectation was on who to contact, that's number one. And then number two, we're soliciting feedback from them, and we will consider that, and that's how it works. So,
Okay, now-
that council's permission, I can proceed in that fashion.
I think it's generous.
Yes.
Wait to see what happens next
The
Wednesday.
only thing that was disappointing was we asked them for their opinion, and instead of giving us their opinion, they were asking us why we were doing it again. And I thought we had made it clear that we wanted something to, as some kind of parameters, but with their input was acceptable. So if there's any way, Mr. Long or anybody speaks to them, they should just tell us what they think
Right.
we should add. I do not believe not having an ordinance is an option. We need some type of guidance.
Can you
It talks about
talk about the other person who approached us?
Yes, in case the members don't know,
Yeah.
another artist in town, you guys know this, I don't know if you know this, another woman in town called Ms. Pinto about putting a mural up at the VFW post. But it was asking for the parameters and the guidelines, and I think we just told her that we were in the process of coming up with it. But it was the same kind of thing. Okay, can I cover the whole building? What am I allowed to say up there? Is there any restrictions on, verbiage and things like that? So I think if we have this very basic ordinance that allows for someone to submit something, and then a group and council approves it, I think we're in great shape. I don't think we're going to deny anything, and I think the fear to say we may deny something, I hate to say it's like a grievance. You can't file a grievance against us until we've done something.
Exactly.
Once we've done it, then you can file a grievance.
She was most concerned with the maintenance of this once it went up.
Whose responsibility was it?
Correct, and she had wanted the people there to understand that that this would require maintenance. It wasn't a forever.
And that's what we talked about. The VFW
Correct.
had to know that they have a responsibility to maintain.
Oh,
it.
correct.
And that didn't seem, the people that asked her to do this didn't seem to have considered that.
Maintain.
What happens 5 years, 10 years?
Or
A
15
mural-
years.
a mural is 15 years, that's the life of a mural.
Average.
Well, that's not, this woman is a former sign
I
maker.
have
She
no
said she knows you. And she said that a mural is different than if you paint the side of your building.
Well, it depends on the surface that you're painting it on.
Yeah.
So
because-
she didn't think 15 years was.
So the ordinance is
last.
mostly about obligation and responsibility,
Correct.
and things along
It
those
wasn't
lines.
criticism
And
on
we
the
don't have
quality
that.
of
If we
the...
don't have that, we're going to run into some challenges,
The ordinance, if you remember what it said that the property owner knows that they're taking ownership of the mural.
which is important.
It said that we were at least notifying, not asking permission, notifying the neighbors. That's all we were doing. And then the council would provide a resolution, which that person would have forever, saying that they were allowed to have that mural. I don't think it was anything,
And
objection.
who even owns the VFW? Is that
Well, I guess
VFW
VFW.
National? Is it?
Whoever owns it would have to sign
That
off.
was another question, and the people that asked her to do it really didn't know. Didn't have any of the answers, so
So that's a problem.
that's why you need
And that-
parameters.
yes.
Exactly.
No consent meal?
Well, I don't know. Okay, so public art, we'll reach out to them.
Thanks, Dan.
You know what, since we're going to go in order for now, we're going to skip one thing, but I did see an applicant walk in. Perfect timing, presentation from Cottonmouth Cannabis. If you'd like, please come up to the microphone, give your name and address, and give us your presentation. Nothing like getting it done.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Salasas. Some of you may know me about the Caucus properties here in Runnemede. We just recently finished the,
Address.
my home address, I'm sorry. My home address is 1105 Oakland Road, Wilmington, Delaware.
Oh,
My,
Wilmington.
just recently.
Mr. Subasas is the previous mayor of Brooklyn.
Oh,
Don't hold that against me.
no.
That was 12, that was a 12-year chapter of my life.
So he should know that name and address.
That being said, so, as your mayor explained to you that, yes, I was in politics for 12 years. I was in Brooklyn from 2000 to 2012. We've developed numerous properties in the Tri-County area. We've done redevelopment projects in Collingswood, Cherry Hill. Here.
Under Cottonmouth.
No, Cottonmouth is, we are very lucky to be here tonight because we have received our retail cannabis license to operate a retail store.
And you chose Runnemede.
We've chosen Runnemede for a lot of different reasons, and I was going to get into all those, but.
So this applicant never came in front of us. They went to the state.
That's what I'm asking questions.
So we never met them before this evening. This is basically the first time.
Right.
And I'll explain to you why. There was a couple things. One, what we saw that was happening within the state and the commission was there was no guarantee who was getting a license or how they were getting a license. And the situation was that part of the application process was you would select an area that you want to be in. Some people went as far as purchasing, developing, planning, zoning, and so forth and such. And we had a couple addresses, a couple properties that we were negotiating in your town, in Runnemede, but we felt that, hey, how are we going to promise and really know if in fact we're getting a license or we're going to really be at that location? So our feeling was, and our attorney's feeling was, and the consulting group that we hired to do all the paperwork and submittals and such we had to do for the state, we just felt that it would be better and more prudent that we get the, we call it the golden ticket, the Willy Wonka golden ticket, and from that point we come back in and we were negotiating on the property next door, the 10 East Clements Ridge Road, the former CVS, which is now a law firm. We had a couple other properties in mind that we were working on, and as the process was going on, we said, hey, we'll get back to you, wait till we, hopefully we're lucky.
And why didn't you come to us before when you were
Because we
negotiating?
because we didn't know where we were going to be. We were
Well, we
negotiating.
were talking about the lawyer, so why
But
did you?
Eleanor, most
So
of
it was
the time,
license first, then location, is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
So some people were trying to come before, but then they weren't sure if they're really getting a license. So then what would happen is somebody else would race over and started creating kind of some
I
ugliness,
understand.
so to speak,
So,
in the business world. So, long story short, we did receive our documentation from the state. We had to reciprocate and respond to them saying that we do accept. Part of that acceptance then is another process where another 1,000 pages of documentation and stuff. But one of the things is a resolution by the governing body allowing us to operate, so to speak, so long as we're in the confines of what the state has put before us. And then we also have to demonstrate that we have control of the property. So we have control of the property.
so you did buy it?
We didn't go to settlement yet.
Oh,
Where they're not getting into all the specific details, but part of the situation is they're slowly moving out. They haven't found kind of the home where they want to be 100%, and they own the building that we have as an office building. So we're kind of.
but that address is the address you guys want to put down as your.
So that's our specific address.
You do have an agreement at
We have
least.
an agreement, 100% ready to go. The architect's been hired. We're going to do a lot of different things, the exterior and so forth. I'll kind of break down.
And that is a Columbus Bridge Road, legal building, right?
It's in the
yeah,
zone.
yeah, right behind the airport.
Okay, yeah, I know where it's at, yeah. It's a big building.
Yeah,
Well,
Is it the entire building?
we're purchasing the entire building. It's a little larger than expected, but for a lot of different reasons. Since we're kind of jumping around, I'll kind of.
It's very informal, I told you.
I'll tell you why. One of the big reasons is they have ample parking.
oh, yeah.
2, it can be secured very easily. 3, it's in a location that is semi-discreet, so to speak, in the fact that there's still visibility to the building, but at the same time, not every single parking spot is visible. We found it compared to some of the other locations, and when we were doing our due diligence, some of the other applicants and some of the spots were like, wow, that's an interesting place, like, where are they gonna park? What's gonna happen, what are they gonna do? But to each his own, so we really wanted to wait and demonstrate the fact that, hey, we can park, we can secure the building, and most importantly, the big thing was the traffic flow. So once we kind of walked the building, we went through, we had our traffic consultant look at a lot of things, we had our engineer look at it, we're not enlarging the building by any means. The intent is to go as a green building. And one of the things we plan on doing is solar, plan on putting solar on the roof. We're gonna have live walls, and what live walls are is green walls. So you'll look at one wall, the exterior to the side, and it's gonna be actual landscaping attached to the wall. So it'll look like, not ivy, but there'll be different variations of grasses and such.
Marijuana?
I'm sorry?
Marijuana?
That might be a little too, too risky. But part of the connotation is the fact that it's going to be green, and that's kind of part of the process. Not only that, the name Cottonmouth has two different, so one is the snake, and kind of that's going to be kind of like the thing that part of the building is going to almost look as the fact that it's like a big plan. We're going to have these wood panels that are being built, and then on the side of the wall is going to be all the greenery all the way up to the roof line. And then we're going to kind of, you're really not going to see the solar panels, but it'll be kind of an interesting thing to see that you're going to see this wall of green with the base being to mimic a planter box. So that's kind of how we're set up with that. But since we're jumping around in the building, the exterior is going to be the green wall that we discussed. The windows that are presently there, some of them are going to remain, but from the internal side, no one will be able to gain access, because we're going to just put wall straight across so that we kind of, it still has a specific look. The entryway is going to be somewhat elevated a little bit more, in that that's going to look to be wood panels to mimic, more wooden boxes and such.
So the entrance stays where it is, you're just making a facade,
Everything's going to remain exactly the way it
the
is.
footprint doesn't change.
The footprint doesn't change, because it's kind of an odd lot and shape, and I believe there's a mutual understanding with the police department that there's still access. If you look at the footprint of the survey, it's kind of a,
There's an easement going through it, or?
I don't know if the easement came up as of yet, and that's what we're looking into, but
Because there is access from the Black Horse Pike.
Right.
there's an access from the Black Horse Pike.
Access
There's
from Lindsay.
And there's two access points here, but one of being which is.
One is a paper street, I believe.
It lines up with the Sally Port, but on the survey, it actually shows that's part of the property.
Oh.
So we're kind of working that out. We're looking to make sure that the traffic flow works out, that doesn't affect a couple homes that are aligned on the street there. And most importantly, we have that big vacant green lot, and part of that is going to start part of our buffer. So the intent there would be that we're going to put ginormous arborvitae, probably about 10 foot to start, real tight all the way through, and then fencing. And then the other residents that back up to the property, we continue to kind of buffer as much as we possibly can without really affecting any of that little road over there. I think it lines up with Sally Port, and our understanding was this was the previous, what the present owners told us was the fact that the police kind of do use it to kind of get in and out and come across the road, and I'm sure residents use it as well. So we're not so concerned about it. You're not so concerned.
Well, if you can meet with our chief, I mean, that would be nice to at least make sure that we're okay with all that. Because remember, everyone, what we're doing this evening is basically just kind of giving the blessing that we feel that this can go to the next step, which is back to the state and then going to our planning.
So
So our planning board will,
he needs a letter of consent.
what we did to the other ones, where we basically said, we're okay, you still have to go through the process. The difference is that they have the luxury.
Yeah.
And just so everyone here knows, most of our neighbors have not received any approvals.
Right.
Runnemede has 2.
Thank you.
Barrington has 0. Magnolia opted out. There's, you know, so we've got, we're kind of in a good shape. Did you, I hate that, did you look around, do you know, other than the two in Runnemede, do you know of any other of the 88 licenses or 81 licenses that were given?
One so far in Brooklyn.
There is one.
Some of the other ones have been really slow to come,
Come
they're
forward.
kind of on a rolling basis, but if there's a situation in your application, they reach out to you, and there are certain criteria that had to be met. What's interesting in the way the statute, the way the commission wrote up was, first and foremost, the intent was that it would go to residents of and business operators of New Jersey, so that the big giant corporations don't kind of come in and start taking over the industry, so to speak. So what happened was, let me introduce you as well. This is Matthew Holcomb, one of my partners here.
So Matthew, you're the applicant.
And
Yes, correct.
Melissa Pizzo.
Correct.
So they have the experience, they've traveled the country, they'll tell you a little bit about what they've been doing and how they've been in the industry. My background is 30 years of real estate development. We own and operate somewhere around 1 million square feet of property that there's retail, we have professional offices, we have commercial buildings and such. We do have quite a bit of retail.
So what will be your interest in all this? You'll be a full partner?
I'm full-fledged, I'm it. If there's a problem, I'm the guy.
So who's going to be in charge of the,
The daily operations is Matthew and Alyssa, but the consulting firm that we took on as a partner, I shouldn't say a partner, as part of our, yeah.
Bridge West?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
What about them?
They are one of the leading top companies, consulting firms specializing in the industry with over 30-plus years experience combined. They're all, and you kind of read a little bit about them. They, all the principles of the firm and how they operate and what they do. So they're on board so that we're always within the compliance portion, because it's very, 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 very extensive as to what we're doing, reporting to the state coming in, doing their inspections and such. Security is of utmost importance, so there's a whole level of everything that they're involved in from the very beginning. They help with the application, they are involved with the second phase of the application, as well as while we're in business. They are going to be responsible for the accounting principles, etc., and they kind of follow along us. We follow along.
So there'll be somebody from Bridge West at the building,
Not on a daily basis, no. What
but they'll be,
they're going to monitor how we're operating.
okay.
And then we have to report and make laws that go to the state so that we're in compliance.
They're gonna, Matthew and I'm sorry, listen, they're gonna be the managers. They're gonna be at the building.
The owners.
Like, you know, and they're like CVS. They're like, the big CEO of CVS is not gonna be at our CVS.
Right, we are going to hire individual store managers to oversee daily operations, so to speak. We're not going to be the managers at the store. We will be there present, but we're hiring individual store managers as well.
We're bringing in.
With experience.
Yes, what's
Right.
happening is with Bridge West, we're bringing in, they use hiring, they have consultants that come in. They have, because they've done over 600 facilities across the country, so working with them, the easiest part for us is the fact that we're bringing in experienced people that are going to operate. So we're going to be the overseers, managers.
And you guys reviewed our conditional use ordinance, talks about hours of operation, talks about the security plans. So that'll all be submitted at the conditional, at the planning board, showing all this. So I don't know, the day-to-day operations, the only part that we get involved in is that they at least follow the minimal rules that we put in there.
Yeah.
For parking, for hours of operation, for security, those kind of things. And then the state has their set of rules on
Right.
top of our rules.
The ultimate, the best way to really understand this is that it's totally a partnership between the business and the municipality.
Okay,
Because
so what do you need from us?
The same thing that everybody else thinks, I just need a resolution of support. And we, and
We're very, you don't have to go much further if you don't want to at this point. I think, I'm going to poll the board right now. At this point, I think the board feels pretty comfortable because remember, our job is not to pick. We haven't taken the stand that we're picking who we felt that the people of this town voted to allow the marijuana or cannabis allowed legally, 77% of our people. We came up with the locations that we felt were in the commercial zone with restrictions from the churches and the schools. And then we made our basic rules, so we don't want to put our finger on any business to say this is the one. The only thing that we were very happy with is that we wanted 2 licenses, and we had 2 people that had got the licenses from the state and meet our very basic criteria, which is really just the location and this minimal meet and greet. So I think what the owner is saying is, obviously, once you guys get a little closer to the drawings of the buildings, even though the board members here will not vote on the outside, what it looks like, or any of those other things, just for the courtesy to send it to us. Now, John, if you wanted to talk a little bit about, before we move to the resolution, some of the different things that you felt, the partnership between the town, I think that's interesting for them to hear your perspective on that.
We definitely did. I mean, we came here prepared to
Woo us.
educate a little, yes. I was specifically told by the mayor not to talk too much because everybody has to come do this. Anyway, so at the end of the day, it's very simple. As a partnership, what ends up happening here is that the borough is going to receive funds from the profits of the business, okay? In light of that, our thing is, and their vision has been the environment, giving back, how are we going to give back, what can we do? My being the mayor for all those years, that was our big thing. How do you work with the business that wants to come to your community versus pounding them with fees and nonsense and like, we want trees. How do you get trees? We want the park to be redone. We wanted lighting. We wanted so many different things to happen in our community. Help us with our fire department, do all these things versus somebody comes to a planning board and you just keep talking about curb and just really going into all these other things that the town doesn't ultimately benefit long term. So one of the things really was the fact that as part of our business plan, we are going to establish a fund that we are going to be in control of, okay? And we, in turn, would like the governing body to figure out a way or come up with a committee, so to speak, to come to us and tell us what needs to be done in the borough, such as if there's a fundraiser for, having a dedication to a park, or there's the lake you want cleaned up, or you want street lighting, or you want landscape, or you want something, versus us just sitting there waiting for somebody to come, like, the Little League's going to come, like, okay, we're going to sponsor. But does the field need to be done? Is there something more that the residents need that you as the governing body would know? And we want you to be able to tell the constituents, like, hey, here's what they're doing. Here's
So what I'll say is,
Gordon.
well, the chamber, the Runnemede Chamber of Commerce, there are mechanisms where the governing body works with the businesses to do this. And I think what John's saying from his experience is, we don't want it to get all mucked up with engineering fees and engineering permits and all that kind of stuff. To get things done. So, what we talked about, the balancing of all these volunteers that want to do things to help our community. How do we do it where we're not pushing them away?
The question is the fund that you wanted to start for the community, is that in addition to the 1 or 2% that you
That's
paid?
completely independent. That's completely
Is there an
separate.
idea of what kind of number that's going to be?
We're working that out with our consultant right now to say, okay, we want to know where we're going to be and what's the best way to do this. So for accounting principles and such. So,
Well, John, can you give an example? I mean, Brown ShopRite was in your community, and
well, what we did
Browns
was
were excellent.
when we worked with Brown ShopRite, and when we went to them, we were looking to expand the school. And what happened was they came back and we sat and actually went to lunch with Jeff Brown, the owner, and said, hey, he's always asking to participate. And I said, look, we're trying to do this. He's like, well, what do you want us to do? I said, you tell me what you think you can do. He came up and said, listen, I'm going to give you guys $200,000, and we're going to start this process. And so every year he contributed to a fund, and then that kind of worked out. We put his name on the building, and we're like, okay, they named a little section, and it worked out. $200,000 went a long way. What was nice about it was the fact that we were able to use it to where we needed it. Then in another community, I worked with a group, and they needed the defibrillators, and they were doing a fundraiser, and we had just finished a really nice project, kind of like, okay, we'll combine. it was, we wrote a check for 10,000, off they went and they did their thing. But what I found was, when we were involved in Brooklawn, people kept going to the same person that was kind of giving. It was just like, and there was no a semblance of like really what's important in town. So you would think the guys showed up the first day and they needed a gazebo, where the town's like, wait a second, gazebo, we need an ambulance, or we need something. So we kind of look at like, what is the best?
Really, you have to say ambulance?
You did your research.
I guess it was a touch of support. Nonetheless, at the end of the day, they're the kind of things like, we work, we've got a town, we've got to work, we got to get a street sweeper. We've done different things for different projects. And,
Each department.
I just think that it's another example of business owners and residents in this community trying to step up.
Being
And we have to do.
invested
we have to-
in the
yeah,
community.
And we have to not push them away, we have to figure out how to work together and things like that, so. I think it's all positive.
Sounds
Right.
great.
and part of that is, Matt and Melissa are local. They grew up in the area. They had moved to Washington. They've gone all around the country looking at different places. And as soon as we got there, like, okay, now you gotta find a house. You gotta find a house in Runnemede. Like, so that's part of the plan here. And the intent is to hire.
You're buying a house or not?
We're looking.
You don't have to.
But
We're looking.
but part of it is, that is the best interest part. The other part of it is on the security end. We've been working with the former county sheriff, Chuck Cunningham. He's involved in consulting and stuff. So we said, all right, Chuck, so we started having discussions of hiring from within, that, the retirees or people that want to moonlight, but who's better to help police the area than the local police? Everybody knows who's what, where, and when. So that's a part of the program here. We're going to be doing consulting, that people that aren't aware of what cannabis really is. We have, bring a doctor on board, but we're also going to have a consultant that's going to sit, and someone can walk in a private room and understand what they're doing. Just like you go to the liquor store and you don't know your wines, someone's going to be there and explain to you, this is what this does, this is how this works, and so forth. So, in a nutshell, we're trying to make this a destination point, so that when someone does come, they're going to see like this completely different building than everybody else is building, that is environmentally safe and friendly, that when they're done, they can say, okay, I'm going to go across the street to the diner, I'm going to go down the street to the bakery, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, because Runnemede is kind of the crossroads to everywhere. The turnpike, comes through. So there's so many ins and outs of the community, and that's why we felt that was like the best infill property for us to go for.
I think it's a great property, it really.
Oh, yeah.
Of all the properties in the town, it has ample parking, more than any other property.
And I like the fact that it's discreet.
It is discreet, right?
It is discreet.
Right.
You don't see people going in and out there all the time.
Right. There's actually some pretty high bushes that
Yeah.
cover the entrance.
Yeah.
Did you guys want to say anything else, Matthew?
Obviously, we came prepared to give our backstory of what we've done, so I mean, that's really all we had.
Okay.
Right now. I mean,
The Inquisitioner, I think, is done, right?
yeah, we don't want to intrude too much more.
I think it's a smart thing to get the license first.
Yeah, it was
There's not-
interesting.
There's not too many out there. We do have some, we've got quite a few.
Yeah, congratulations on getting that license, yeah. I have to give it to
Give
you.
it to them now, right?
The state gave him the license, that says a lot, doesn't it?
No, that's a good thing. That's like, you go to a restaurant, you do your menu first,
Okay.
before you do anything.
So,
Let's give them what they need.
Dan, do you want us to just pass basically the blank resolution that we've done in the past?
Go for it.
Okay. All right, so we've got resolution,
You've come a long way on this, Mrs. Kelly, from when we
Yeah.
first.
I have, because.
you have come along, she voted no for marijuana.
She voted no for the ordinance, and now
She was my or no.
Yeah.
All right, so we have resolution 2296, would be a resolution supporting Cottonmouth Dispensary at 10 East Clemens Road, with all the other details that are required. Now, is this the resolution that we passed the first time, or is this a combination of the first and second resolution?
We just need to add LLC to that.
Oh, I'll say,
Yes.
okay, well, you'll get to
We'll
review.
review one, yeah.
If you want, we'll make sure that Mr.
We'll
Law,
have our lawyer talk to your lawyer.
have our lawyers talk to you.
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, by Mr. Ranieri, second by Mr. Shapiro. Any other discussion? Okay, let's do roll call for this one. Roll call?
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Lobenstein?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Mr. Shapiro?
Yes.
And Mr. Ranieri?
Yes.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
Mrs. Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I think- Thank you very much, but one other thing, just, we will come back and kind of want to bring, set something up that can kind of meet the rest of our professionals and the people that are on board. I think it's going to kind of be a prudent thing for you to really understand the operation.
Well, we knew you had a short time frame to get the letter to the state.
Right, and that's fine. So
But if you want to have a more
definitely come
formal presentation,
back,
send
so we can
in
really understand.
electronic stuff to everyone, I
Yeah.
can pass it out and make sure we all have
Yeah,
it.
that was
So everybody has the same style.
to see our vision.
Right, right.
Absolutely.
And get to know us a little bit more as a team, so that would be great.
Awesome.
Mr.
Good luck with everything.
Could you email me the name of your company and so I
will
get it correctly?
to you, Joyce, yes.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, have a good night. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mayor. Take care.
Okay. So just to talk briefly about this again, remember what we did. We figured we would be very supportive for anybody who wanted to do this, as long as they met the minimum standards. Obviously, we counted on the state to do their vetting. Ironically, they skipped many of the people that we supported
Yeah?
to someone who didn't even come to vote, which is, I'm still confused how they
They
did
did
that.
it first. That's
Yeah, but
That's weird though.
No, but so here's why I was a little surprised by that, because all the early indications, and of course state indications are one thing, and what actually happens is often something way different, was go to your towns first before we'll even consider you. And it took them to the second round of applications and licenses to, I guess, disregard that, which is fine, but, you know, it honestly makes our role easier.
Well,
To be
it's
perfectly
also-
frank.
It's not the first project that John has done in our town. He put together the Dollar General store too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I believe that the young man, Matt, was his nephew.
Oh.
And he was the one who did this application, and I think what happened was they were trying to figure out where to go, and I think the idea was, why would you go out and buy a building, which, you know, some of our applicants did, they went and
Oh,
purchased
yeah,
buildings
they did.
to do that. So it was very interesting the way this worked out. And so just so you know, again, I think it was 81, was it 81? Did you read the list, how many people actually received
That
licenses?
sounds about right, but I don't
So
know.
for Runnemede to get 2 was really amazing, when you think about
That's
over
true.
9 million people, a town of 8,400.
It's location.
It might, maybe.
Well, we got two.
Location,
Because if you
location,
recall,
Basil and
location.
them?
The first
Basil.
rule of real estate.
Yeah.
Location, just like he said.
Basil was like two of them, two applicants.
You have 295.
They moved from
You have the
Brunswick
turnpike.
Road
You
to.
have everything right
to
here.
Chinooks.
Per capita, I think we'll probably be winning statewide.
Now, they still have to go in front of the planning
I
board.
know.
There's still a public hearing.
Yeah.
There's still all that, they have to do all that stuff, and whatever they have to do with the state has nothing to do with us on that. Okay,
Very good.
so shared service with Barrington EMS. Now, we're gonna do part of this in closed session,
Yes.
but I do see some people here this evening, and before we do our closed session, Eleanor, did you want to have anybody speak? Did I see Kate here? Kate, why don't you come up and please introduce yourself, because I don't believe anyone has met you. Because Kate put this proposal together, submitted it to Shelley. I don't know if I think all the members of the council have seen it, but Shelley did most of the analysis, and Ms. Kelly did a lot of the questions. So just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about Barrington EMS.
Sure. My name's-
Pretend they don't know anything about Barrington EMS.
My name's Kate Bowen. I'm the chief of Barrington EMS. I've been with Barrington EMS since February of 2010, and I've been chief since July of 2019.
When you say chief, you're what?
The boss,
The boss.
in charge.
Okay.
So not part of the fire department. They have a separate fire department, and there's a
Yes.
separate fire chief. Their EMS is broken, what we've talked about, but this is 2 separate entities. They work together, but they're 2 separate entities.
Yes. So we just handle ambulance calls.
And she's not part of the government, correct? You're not.
Correct.
They are their own individual entity.
So you're a private firm.
Contracted by Barrington and Hannah
So like Inspire, right?
A little bit smaller.
But a private firm.
Yes, but they're a nonprofit, and they're supported by Barrington, which is the reason it sort of works out that Barrington, of course, just like we want to support ambulance, Barrington supports them. The only difference is we're part of our fire company. They're a separate entity.
So we cover Barrington, we've covered Haddon Heights for about 8 years. And then we also cover a portion of.
How many ambulances do you have?
We own 4 ambulances. We run 1 ambulance 24/7.
So if one breaks down, they have another one.
We have
I think they have an older one, things like that. They're in the same situation as most, they need to replace things, and that's an issue too. Maintaining and investing.
How old is your oldest ambulance?
It is,
I think a better question is how old is your youngest ambulance?
All right, I was gonna work to that.
also old.
Okay.
When you say, 10 years. Your newest ambulance is 10 years old. Same as ours.
Similar.
Good.
Every letter is full.
Thank you.
And our oldest ambulance is probably like 20 years old. We don't use it except for parades.
Parades. Okay.
Yep. We handle like 2,100 calls a year. And then that's first due, and mutual aid to other towns. So we provide mutual aid to Runnemede, Belmar, money from Audubon,
All the
Magnolia.
local towns.
How many EMTs do you have?
It's down right now. We have about 20. We have 4 full-time. The rest are per diem and also full-time, so they're full-time.
Okay.
So most of them are part-time and they have four full-time.
Correct.
So explain why you think this proposal would work for Runnemede and also work for Barrington and Haddon Heights.
So I think that it benefits both towns. I explained to the mayor, right now, I know I can only speak for Barrington, but we're relying very heavily on these part-time per diem employees. And they're working a full-time job, they're working other part-time jobs. So a lot of times it's who pays more or who has more flexible hours or whatever. So the best way to guarantee coverage is full-time employees. For us, the cost is too high to hire additional full-timers right now. I have the 4 full-time employees, 2 work day shift and 2 work night shift, and they work opposite of each other. So every shift has a full-time employee, and then I have a part-timer to work with them. What I'd like to do is have 8 full-time employees.
So if you got 3 or 4 towns involved in this full-time, you could hire more people.
I could hire
Yep.
more full-time employees.
But I think the proposal that we have is if we were to do this, you would hire.
For additional.
So that's-
employees.
What it's coming down to, I think, is that we've been battling, trying to pay our employees more money, trying to get people to do these jobs. And I think the answer really is that they want full-time employment. And so one of the
Well, do
difficulties
they,
is,
when you say full-time, then you pay benefits and the whole.
That's the cost.
but they're not government. So I know it's not quite fair, but because they're not government, they're a separate entity, they're not paying the police and firemen's pension fund, which is 33% on top of their salary.
What benefits do you
Not
give
necessarily,
those
they're
people?
only EMTs, they're not.
Medical,
But-
dental, vision. and
Medical,
health.
dental.
Ours are 33%.
No, well, yes, ours are.
So the point I think is that Barrington was looking for more, they needed to have more revenue come in to make their plan sustainable.
So the 75,000 that you're going to get from us would hire 2? You'd get 4 for 75,000?
Remember though, she also gets any revenue that she collects during those hours.
Yeah.
So just so everyone knows the proposal in the audience, and I'm going to say, this is what I do for a living, is talking to the microphone, is our department, if this is the way we would go, we would change our hours so that at 6 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock, our 4, because we would have to hire at least 1 full-time EMT, our 3 firefighter EMTs plus 1 full-time EMT would cover from 6 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock. Per her proposal, she felt that she could cover from 3 o'clock on. We weren't sure how we would do this. We were just trying to figure out nights and weekends where we do have some issues. But what it does for us is it concentrates all our full-time employees during the daytime hours, which are very busy. They're busy hours also. Not to say that
Busiest.
the busier
The
hours.
busiest.
I mean, there can be busy times at any time, but
But-
our employees do other things. They're responsible for fire calls, they're responsible for fire marshal's office, things like that. So the proposal, the way I look at the proposal is that it generates income and revenue from the payment from the borough and the collection of the revenue, the fees, that they're able to make their business model, because yours, it really is a business model, work. You know, what I believe is going to happen is if we don't start to work together, all of us are going to end up in a negative. Can I be frank and say we use, you know, they went to Haddon Heights and said, you've got to pay us more money. We're running in the negative. So at some point, all these municipalities are going to have this issue where the revenue's not there, the costs have increased, and the models aren't sustainable. So the only way to make the model sustainable, this is an example of potentially making it sustainable, is to combine a little bit so that the revenues and the expenses help make the cost. For us, her proposal is what she proposed. She said the same thing to Heights. Heights didn't offer her any more money. She offered this to us. I would say that the amount of money she's asking for is less than what it costs us to run our department. Everybody saw the number.
Yes, yes.
So it's a win for them, it's a win for us. Now, we still maintain our 2 ambulances, we still maintain our entire department. I believe if we do make an agreement, we have a caveat in there that says we're allowed to supplement. We talked about power shifts. I mean, remember that's been talked in the police department, fire department.
Yeah.
We can supplement, we can still do with our part-timers certain things that we want to do, football games and stuff like that. But I think that the fact that we had.
Here's my concern,
Yes.
and I'll be very honest. I feel once we do not have anyone working nights or anyone working weekends, we will never have people working nights and weekends again. Is that what you're planning?
I would say no.
I mean, that's, yes.
I would say no.
It's right there.
Because I'm going
It's right there.
to be very honest. I don't know how well these things are going to work. You know, there's a lot of details. That if this was so easy, why isn't everybody doing it? I've been going to
Well,
meetings.
that's why I have
I've been going to meetings
4
with
pages of
exactly.
questions.
I've been going to meetings with the county and battling with everybody, trying to say, how do we incentivize people to get their licenses?
I just told you my concern.
The only thing I would say is, I think our obligation, Eleanor, is what you and I and Ms. Patsy, when we first got on council, you guys, we wanted 7 days a week, 365 days, 24 hours a day.
Well, that doesn't happen.
But that was our goal from the
That
day
was
that
our
we
goal.
became on council. We bought 2 ambulances, we hired more full-timers, we tried everything to make this work.
And we raised our fees.
We raised our fees,
everything.
we've done
We raised
everything.
our fees, we raised salary,
So all I can say
and
to
we
you,
have not
Eleanor,
been successful.
nothing's a guarantee, Eleanor. There's no guarantees in this world. The only thing I can say is we can try. Now, I will say that if we decide to make an agreement with this organization, it has to be an agreement where we don't hurt them either, because if for some reason it falls apart, we can't hurt them. She's going to go out and hire full-time people. We want to be kind of aware of that, so that if there is this, you know, I always say marriage is easy, divorce is hard,
Is there any,
and that's the way it
is there
should
any
be.
more management responsibility on our side?
Well, we're still going to operate our department. The only difference is
From 6 to 3.
6 to 3 or any supplemental stuff we want to do. We're not selling our ambulances, we're not doing it.
So
All
the
we're saying is not
75,000 just gets, that covers the nights and weekends?
nights and weekends.
We don't have that now.
That's what that
correct?
fee is, right?
We have a difficult time.
It's a difficult time.
So in other words, we don't
We
have-
are without, I think John can talk to that. There are many nights and many weekends when we're not fully staffed, and we're not able to answer calls.
I mean, we've had situations where we have nobody on, we have one person on.
Then it's covered.
Well, she has to guarantee us that, you know, and that's something that we're going to hold her responsible. So to Eleanor's question, you know, I'm a person who holds people accountable. If Barrington EMS doesn't do what they say they're supposed to do to a certain standard, you understand that, right? We can say you're not upholding your part of the bargain. I have a lot of confidence because of the fact that they're working with these other towns, and we want them to succeed. We want, even these part-timers that we're sharing between, we want people to work, we just want coverage. I don't know what else we can do.
Well, like I said, we won't have people working nights here in Runnemede, we won't have people working weekends anymore.
Eleanor, we had 3 people resign while I was away,
That was, I'm not gonna talk on that right now.
but you understand.
I understand. I will keep my mouth shut on that.
Did you want to add anything else? Okay.
You have any questions?
I mean, it's not an easy decision. You gotta understand that Mrs. Kelly is correct. These have ramifications
And,
that affect people in our community.
and to your point, we have tried some of those same things, raising the wages, and it didn't work. And that's why we're seeking a different solution.
All right, so you're gonna hire 2 more
4.
full-time, four full-timers.
It becomes.
And that's 75,000.
It becomes a career rather than trying to get
Yeah,
part-time
yeah,
people.
exactly.
Which just
It's a
causes
career.
all kinds of angst.
She's
for us.
already has 20 part-timers. Some of those 20 are gonna be found full-time.
People want a career now,
Yeah,
so it makes sense to me.
Did you want to add?
No, I like to, as long as we have coverage, and, I don't know.
So I'm great now, so let's do it.
Well, let's hear from, we have a few more people in the audience. We can start a closed session if you'd like. I'm fine with that. We can put it on the agenda. But, you know, thank Tate if you could just stay for a little bit, because we're gonna talk a little bit more.
Thank you.
I mean, we have our chief here. I mean, why don't we start with our fire chief who's been, sorry, fire chief, we threw you in, but you knew what you were getting involved in, so come on up.
Why so far away? Why you?
Oh, he's doesn't want to
he
get,
always sits back there.
so he could survey the room.
Let's go back to the bus. How you doing?
So at least give us your perspective. Do the microphone so we can hear.
Name and address.
No, you don't have to give me a He works for us.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, I'd like to take into consideration that, to sit down and talk it over and discuss with the chief. I've never even met her yet until I saw her tonight. To sit down and talk about different coverages. I don't think that we should be throwing everything at the wall at once. I think that baby steps is the way to go, to sit down and see what we can do to correct our problem and operate our ship, instead of just handing everything over. We have a lot of loyal employees that do work Monday through Friday after hours. So I mean, our weekends, we do have issues with filling, shifts. It's everybody's got it, but right now, we, as you said a couple minutes ago, we've had 4 or 5 people resign. She said I'm not going to get into that. But if we could fill those shifts, I think that or fill those people, those vacancies, we could start fulfilling those shifts.
So the only thing I'll say is I agree with the chief that if we had the manpower, I believe he could run the department a little more efficiently. But what I don't think we can do is we can save the amount of money and guarantee the coverage that we, even if he was able to hire 4 more people, and even if he was able to do everything, we could run it. I think Shelley, if she could add, the cost for us is so much greater. So let's be clear. One of the reasons this works is because by consolidating a little bit, you're not having to buy ambulances as frequently. You've got 2 people on call in Runnemede, and 2 people on call in Belmar, and 2 people on call in Barrington, and 2 people on call in Magnolia. And you know me, I'm a business guy. A business wouldn't do that. Your on-call AC guy doesn't have 5 guys sitting in each town. He has what he deems necessary to make the coverage. And from the learning curve that I've had is the larger municipalities are more efficient in the aspect that they're able to, divide their personnel up so that they do have coverage. It's not a perfect system, not even close. That's why I feel we do have to maintain some of our employees. You are correct. We do have to keep some of these ability to cover where we may want to cover things. Now, how do you do that? Once again, we're not doing it now. I'm sorry. We ran the payroll reports the other day. You don't want me to start pulling payroll reports where you've got 1 person on duty. And chief, are you allowed to send an ambulance out with 1 guy? No. So we're paying for a gentleman or a lady to be there
Yes.
for a shift.
I know.
with no ability to run the ambulance.
I know.
Now, we're trying, and they
Yeah,
cover.
The thing is, we've had the ability to replace those people that resigned, we can fill those holes. But they're resigning for some reason, but
I hear you. The only thing I'll say, and it's not anything to do with you, Pat, because I think that you're in the middle of a tough situation, and I take responsibility for putting you that. I have every confidence in the fire department, and I have every confidence in our EMS employees. But we've tried for several years now to make this work, and it's not been working, Eleanor. We've tried everything.
I know.
Pat warned us 3 years ago. The road we were heading down, and while I appreciate he wants to try, and I think that we should still stay strong with our equipment and our stuff, I would say that the men that we're going to have working full time, we support them and give them what they need. The fire department, the volunteer department is excellent. We can support them more. The money that we save on EMS makes some of the things we want to do in fire and other departments easier.
Well, would we keep our current EMS people that are still there?
Absolutely. I'm talking about the full-time.
Yeah.
The
Not the
part-timers.
part-timers.
The part-timers would only work when there was a
We have
need.
part-timers that work every day. They aren't there all the time. So
You
what
know-
happens to them? They're gone?
Eleanor,
They're
yes,
gone?
yes.
I can't abide by that.
Eleanor, they can go work in Barrington. Eleanor, they can cover, there's nothing to say that we can't have part-timers during the daytime. Our employees, because we're government employees, Eleanor, they're entitled to vacation, sick days, all this other stuff. We sprinkle part-timers. If you look at the payroll schedule, which I know you're not looking at, you'll see that our current, tell me if I'm wrong, during normal business hours, part-timers come in to supplement the staff. Supplement. So, not all the time, but they sprinkle them in to supplement. The evenings and weekends are really the only times that we're going to rely on Barrington EMS. And if those employees who are working for us, Kate's going to have another ambulance available sometimes. She's going to need personnel to do this. She's not in any different situation than us. Kate, do you want to at least say that you're at least going to entertain me? You need to hire more people, correct? I know, I talked to one of your council people, and he said that one of the questions you had was you wanted a list of all our current part-time employees, because we need to fill this. Pat's been working on finding a full-time EMT for us right now, right? You've got 2 names, I heard.
Yeah, we have 2 applications.
You have 2 applications.
We just advertised it to the public because we had to advertise on the union board for 10 business days. And then Friday of last week was the first day it got released to the public.
So I think Pat's going to recommend, or the committee's going to, I would say interview whatever you want to interview, how many people. We're going to have to hire at least 1 full-time
Yes,
EMT.
I know that.
Yeah.
But
So
it's not going to be a firefighter. He'll be an EMT only. Is that correct?
it's correct, because I hate to say firemen don't want to be EMTs, and EMTs and firemen
Well,
are.
there should have been a separation from the start.
I agree.
I agree.
Put that all under one umbrella. If you look down Blackridge Pike and up Cummings Road, they're all separate.
Yeah.
They're divisions of the fire department. But they're their own entity, they function that way. Cherry Hill does it, Defford does it.
And that's why, Ms. Kelly, you said a chief. She is the chief of the EMS, correct?
Unfortunately, we tried to hold on to that firefighter EMT thing for way too long, and it's coming around and biting us in the butt.
Yes, it is.
So, to separate it, let that function as the EMS division, let this function as the fire division, and have your structure and your command down the middle, and then run it that way.
Well, the part-timers that we have, they don't get benefits, there's nothing.
No.
But if they change to Barrington, worked under that umbrella, that wouldn't change anything.
Nothing personal, but I don't think you're gonna get a lot of our volunteers shuffling down Cummings Road to Barrington.
Why?
I just don't think they're gonna do it.
So once again, Eleanor, is our obligation to 8,400 people in this community, or, don't get me wrong, I appreciate every one of these guys that put their time in. I mean, our deputy chief puts a lot of hours in, Our EMS deputy helps, they work hard. And it's not about hurting an individual, it's not. But it is about looking at the overall picture of something. I would hope that those men back there would say, hey, if this means that the fire department is going to be treated better, and improve what we're trying to do there. There's going to be positives and negatives, Eleanor. I'm not saying this is easy, but that's our job. Our job is to make hard decisions. It's not to just kick the can down the road.
I'm not kicking the can down the road.
Well, you know,
I'm just
we've been
hoping
trying for 2
that-
years, and it's a time to make a decision. And I think that Shelley will tell you that our revenue is off by 30 or 40% already this year. It's not anybody's fault, but the company that was doing our billing went bankrupt.
I know.
They sniffed Haddonfield for money, right? Haddonfield just found out
It was a nightmare.
that we at least found out sooner. You know, the circumstances are terrible. You know,
Well, before you make a decision, I'd like to have a discussion prior to you guys making a decision off the record.
well, the only thing I can do is if everyone is agreement, we could do a closed session and ask the chief to come in. You know, we could do that this
Would
evening.
you do that?
Yeah, that portion.
It would be tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be tonight.
Can I bring,
Mrs. Anthony and John, if you want to, I have no problem.
Yeah.
You know, I want you to be able to talk candidly
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
to us.
But I don't
because-
think this is the place.
No,
No.
I mean, we have rules that we have to follow, but we could do, because Ms. Kelly had said from the beginning, we thought maybe a closed session would be appropriate. Okay. Did anybody else want to speak on this issue
Thank
before
you,
we,
Chief.
we're going to move on. We're not going to vote on anything right now. We're going to move on to the rest of the agenda. Okay? All right, so we'll get back to that at the end of the meeting. Disallowance of a disabled deduction. Joyce, what was that?
That is, we discovered that someone with the same name as his deceased father was receiving a disabled deduction without any application, so we have to remove that.
Okay. Infrastructure trust resolution.
That came from Mark.
It's
It's
just
gonna
to
be
formalize the infrastructure outline for the data for the sewer expansion project.
Okay.
It's just a formality that we have to submit on DEP.
You okay with that for Wednesday night? Okay. Salary increase for obtaining licenses, or license. Is this Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
So, once again, we had a discussion, and let's be clear, we have contracts. So contracts and agreements, we follow. So, not to bring yours in, but I'm gonna bring it up because you brought it up. So, you know, he has individuals in his department who have obtained certain certificates. The rules are very specific. It says what they get, they get. And so very similar with Ms. Miller. She passed her clerk's license, which I believe we all were very happy.
Yes, indeed.
So part of her obtaining that was that when she obtains it, she was granted. So I believe at the next meeting, we should do a resolution memorializing that increase for the license, whatever that is.
Great.
Okay? So we'll put it on the next meeting. And then, do we need to do anything for your guys? It's already, because some things are contractual.
That's, it's because it's contractual.
It's right in the contract. Yeah, okay. Before we go around the table, let's at least do the housekeeping payment of bills. Would someone like to make a motion to pay the monthly bills?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Lobenstein,
I'll second that motion.
second by Ms. Kelly. Roll call.
Mrs. Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Lobenstein.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Mr. Shapiro.
Yes.
And Mr. Runnemede.
Yes.
Okay, one thing that wasn't on the agenda that we do want to talk about was the chicken ordinance. There is a final draft that has been circulated, but I believe there was a question that was sent to us by a resident. So, Mr. Long, do you want to help me with this one a little bit? And maybe,
Well, so several of them I was able to, there were
Oh.
a few questions that were asked by a resident. I was able to handle the first 5 of them because they're answered in the ordinance. Mayor, I know you just got back from Europe yesterday. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the version before it comes to
so I know the resolution, I know the ordinance, I think Mr. Farrell made a change to it. I don't have any problems with it, I don't know if anybody else has it. It limits the amount of, did you get a chance to read it?
I
No.
We're not voting on it, we're discussing it.
We're discussing it. That's good. Here's why I wanted to send it to the mayor first and Mr. Farrell, because Mr. Farrell has expressed an interest in it, and I thought that they would see it first, and then I'll circulate it to council, and then put it on for first reading next week. That's okay with everybody.
Did you read it?
No, nobody else has read it besides you
Oh.
and Mr. Farrell.
She hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah, she hasn't seen it
Oh,
yet.
no.
I can do that tomorrow.
Do you, since we have some members here, was there any of those questions that we wanted to get?
Sure, just at like I said, I was able to handle the vast majority of these. You guys want to come up?
So you don't have to, well, should you have to swear? Well, at least give us your name.
Give us your
We'll
name.
put you on there, but we are asking your opinion.
Steve Singer, 5 6 Center.
Here's the question, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Samantha St. Isaac, 456
I think I know your answer, but I'm not certain, and I don't like to speak out of turn. It's just a thing I have. All right. Do chickens attract rats? Rats are not attracted to chickens. However, they are attracted to chicken feed and love stealing freshly laid eggs. Now, part of the ordinance is that the coop has to be secured from the feed. Rats are also attracted to nice, warm, cozy places to live, especially if there's a reliable food source near. Again, that part's covered. And while I would like to tell you that my neighbor has been keeping their property in the most respectable condition, one can drive by at any given time and see that is not the case, as the lawn is overgrown and the trash cans are not brought in on time, and that's another issue. All right, the backyard is a garden that is not quite taken care of, and another idea is to add more to it by adding chickens.
So is this
any
a
of you comment on
resident,
the rats?
is this a resident complaining because they think their neighbor's gonna get chickens? Is that where this
Yes.
letter came from?
I guess.
Did you see this?
No, I read this. To me, people shouldn't get chickens because they can't even take care of their house.
Well, that's why exactly, one, we have the process, two, we'll have a chicken advisory board that we will be appointing that will be circulating that, and
Should we have a mechanism that says that someone who has property maintenance violations is not entitled to, that's not in our ordinance.
let me see.
Does that make sense? If an individual, if a property owner has a property maintenance violation, they are either not allowed to have chickens or their chickens are revoked.
Well, how about this?
Gwen, have you ever had that happen?
Never. It's never been in an ordinance about other property issues.
Well, Gwen, the last time you were in this room, the person who was going to get the chickens was on our radar screen, and it really was a bad first impression of it. That was one of the reasons it went. The new group of people that have come forward, I think, are very reputable, and I think they're going to be what you're talking about, the regular people who are good. Our fear is always the what ifs, and the reason we have an ordinance, at least try to cover some of these things.
Mayor, here's the mechanism that's contained in the ordinance. It says that no license shall be issued prior to any applicant meeting with the Chicken Advisory Board to determine if the applicant is able to meet all criteria. That is our mechanism that we have in place.
I mean, I'm satisfied.
It's working.
Thanks.
Did you have concerns? I know you have
I
concerns.
know, yeah.
Who's gonna be the advisory board? You
That's gonna
can't
be a-
have chicken people doing the advisory.
Okay.
You have to have other people.
Okay. What is
So-
our advisory board made up of?
I would disagree with that, and I'll tell you why. You want the people who have the most vested interest in it succeeding and the program being done properly. That is how it has worked in other towns, including the next town over in Magnolia. If you have people who are just completely ambivalent to it, then the way the Chicken Advisory Board is to work is they oversee the meeting with the residents and the granting of the licenses. And it is going to be a pilot program. So that's what's being proposed as first reading. So if it doesn't work, it gets revoked after a year. So I think the ordinance properly incentivizes everybody to
When Eleanor's concerned, is there any way to satisfy Eleanor's concern?
Sure, well-
Would code enforcement, would it be, I think one of her concerns is that police and code enforcement would be having to step in.
To enforce whatever the ruling is. You know what I'm saying? Like, the chicken people come in, and they,
Chicken Advisory Board.
Chicken Advisory
Board, yes.
they come in and they say, yes, you can have a license. But then there's a problem.
Right,
So
complaints.
who do we send out to
It's a
correct
great
the
question.
problem?
And it's answered in the ordinance, Mrs. Kelly. I'm glad you asked that. When a complaint is received by the borough, it will be forwarded to the Chicken Advisory Board for investigation by 2 members of the board.
Finish.
If the board finds a violation of this article, a notice of violation will be issued by the borough code enforcement officer. If after 30 days the violation has not been remedied, the borough code enforcement officer shall be notified so that enforcement proceedings may be implemented.
It's no different than anything else we do.
No different than anything else.
The mechanism doesn't make them, if they don't act on it, our code enforcement steps in. I know
We're
they're
giving
like
our
work.
code enforcement more help to more effectively
They go out first.
oversee the code enforcement concerns.
So who is the advisory?
We appoint them. We appoint them.
Council,
Okay.
mayor with council's
Yes.
consent. So, you know, Gwen has 25 years doing this?
No, not actually, but I've helped 20 towns now change their work.
Gwen, give your name and address. If everyone doesn't remember Gwen, I remember.
Glendale, 24 Hampton Road, Haddon Township. We have 30 houses with chickens and no problems. And it's run by the Chicken Advisory Board, and it's never had to go any further than us even investigating what turned out to be kind of frivolous.
Give us an example of a problem that you're aware of in one of the communities, because I know you've been an advocate for a little while. Give me an example of something bad that happened.
None.
No.
Every single pilot has been converted to ordinance because they haven't had problems. One town in Monroe heard a rooster before even they could contact the advisory board. The advisory board had already found out and taken care of it. So, you know, it works.
So I believe what Mr. Long is saying is that they self-regulate because they don't want a black eye and make them all bad so that it gets revoked.
I remember that we
I
had
think it's a
this
certain type of person who gets chickens. No offense, I think there are people who want to do that extra work. It's a lot of work.
It's the
Well, my
same,
neighbors are complaining already. They say, we don't want chickens.
So they don't have to get them.
You know.
I guess your question is though, is your question about the neighbor, what is your issue when a neighbor doesn't like another neighbor? We have that happen, every community has.
we're not turning them, they're not being turned into farms. Let's be perfectly clear. They're able
I
to.
just hope that these are not the little backyards that are on my street, because my backyard is small, and so is everybody else on Forest Avenue. We have very small backyards.
So what's the, even if your yard's small, what's the concern?
I don't think you should have chickens in a small
For
backyard,
what reason?
because they stink.
That's the
And
farmer's.
you got rats, and you got all that horrible stuff. Why do we need chickens?
My son has chicken, and you could eat off anywhere around there. They are
It's
not,
not
they are
necessarily
not.
like
As long as the standards are met,
Right.
and we have to have
We all
standards.
appreciate your opinion.
Please,
We
I
do.
gotta keep my mouth shut
We
because I'm
appreciate
very
that.
upset about it.
Let me at least, though, you understand democracy. Mr. Ranieri,
know.
how do you feel?
I'm all for it.
Okay, Mr. Lowenstein? I'm for it. Mr. Farrell? Yes. Mr. Shapiro?
Yes.
Okay. I apologize that we don't have it, because I agree we should have an opportunity to read it, unless, do we feel comfortable in our attorneys? If everyone wants to do it. Kelly, you have the right to vote.
May I make a suggestion,
I
Mr.
will,
Farrell?
I will.
Of course you can.
You're not gonna love this, and I apologize in advance.
You've been doing a great job.
Thank you. So, doing it next week doesn't prejudice us in any way. Because we still have to do the 2 readings. So it will not set back the time we can do.
Well, 'cause
the
we have to
public
wait
hearing.
20 days.
Because we have to wait 20 days, and then there's 3 weeks.
You're
between.
aware of that.
So,
So today versus,
yeah, today versus next week is no different, and just that will give everybody the opportunity.
because we have to have a public hearing.
Eleanor, real quick, before, this is when this lady came the first time, I was dead against it. Then my son got it, and I realized I was the ass. I mean, they're.
You don't have to go that far.
No. My granddaughter's autistic, she loves sitting with them, playing with them, they're just.
Whatever.
But I agree that neighbors have rights, and that's my biggest concern, that we don't do something that hurts somebody else. So as long as there's a mechanism to solve the problem,
Isn't there a minimum yard size
I think
in
it's
this?
50 by 150.
So it is a limit of 2 chickens permitted per 1,000 square foot of
So
lot,
there is a limit.
capped at a maximum of 9.
So if you have a tiny, tiny one, you can't have it.
And to be perfectly clear, what's being proposed is a pilot program.
And when you say
like
lot,
said,
you
you're
say-
right, Magnolia was next town over, but I think we spoke there, that they did a pilot program and it did convert to an ordinance. And I think there's a lot of upside in this, it just has to be done the right way, that the concerns of, people who are hesitant are balanced with.
Is there a proposal, how many are going to be allowed in the pilot program the first year, or is there unlimited?
I think we were saying 6. Was there 6 people?
What if?
We need to have a
So
number.
we limited it to 20 licenses at one time.
Pilot.
It was during the pilot.
But Old Township only has 30, and they're a town 3 times the size of it. So if we get 5 or 6,
We're not gonna get that many, no offense.
I'm gonna drive around Eleanor's house.
We're not
drop
gonna get a
chickens
lot
off.
of.
I think that's a good thing, to be honest.
It's gonna cost me a fortune, though.
On June 25th, so I have a Facebook group called Hens for Runnemede, and I've garnered quite a few people here.
Yep.
So I asked them on June 25th, I did a poll, I said, do you plan to get chickens once Runnemede allows hens? I had, I'm sorry, it's supposed to give me an actual number. 75% said yes, so I'm waiting to see what actual number that is. 9 people said yes.
Okay.
And that may or may not have included the personal union that you discussed about last time. I don't know if they were on this group or not. So
Look, there's nobody on Forest Avenue.
Eleanor,
I'll be the first one to complain.
You've been around plenty. Okay, so
You be there?
if everyone's in, I think we'll circulate the ordinance again, and we'll put it on for Wednesday night.
So next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday night.
Eleanor, you can dress up in a different outfit.
And are those people allowed to attend those?
You are always,
Everything we do.
not only are you allowed, we have to permit.
You have an opportunity to speak at every time. Gwen's been going, how many have been to more council meetings than me, I think?
Probably.
So we're making tangible progress, we're getting there.
Thank you
If
so
Mr.
much.
Farrell's happy with me, I'm good. So that's
Really
what I'm
appreciate
doing.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Will you get a chance to actually see
Yeah.
this before, like, could you email?
Absolutely, because I think Bob, they worked on a final draft, and I think we can circulate that now.
Sure.
Yeah, you might,
Before that night?
Yes,
yeah, once the draft.
it's basically Magnolias, I believe.
It's based on Magnolia's tweak for slight tweaks with Runnemede. Send it to your son, your daughter, and mom, and then distribute.
Yeah, send it to the group.
That way, I think that's the most efficient way to go about it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
No questions for me?
No, thank you for coming again.
Thanks, man.
I'm
Thanks
sorry
for
it took
being
10 years.
Well, no, it didn't take that long, but.
No, it didn't. It took 7.
No, it didn't.
It's about 6.
Plus COVID, add another few
Tell me
decades.
six.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks for all you do.
Nice to see you all
Nice to
again.
see you.
Glad that it looks-
I will not be getting chickens, Gwen, and I have an acre and a
Oh, can I
half.
just say one other thing when you're talking about how many people and all that? Sometimes the fact that I know it's in there that they have to take the class. It
Yes.
weeds out people. Okay, when people
It
realize.
weeds them out if
The
they're
new
required.
class is 2.5 hours.
Okay.
Okay, they have to, right now it's still on Zoom. So, it's $15, they get handouts, they get the link, and then when they see it, they email me and tell me, I saw it, and they have to take a quiz, because I'm not trusting anybody. If they just say, I saw it, give me my certificate, no way. Okay.
It's in here.
It's in order, so they have to take a class before they're even allowed to chicken.
Right, and they have to take the quiz, I mark the quiz, always add a few comments.
You gotta take a quiz?
Oh, yeah, because I don't trust it, they said they watched it on Zoom, okay? Because they're not sitting in the classroom with me yet, okay? So, that's working, and then when I send their results back from their quiz, then I send them a copy, a certificate that they can attach to their application. Quite a few times, people have finished the whole thing. I mean, I'm not finished watching it, but I think they do kind of realize what's involved. How much money is involved,
Yes.
okay? To build a coop that's really predator-proof, hardware cloth, you never use chicken wire on a chicken coop. Raccoons will eat it in a heartbeat, okay? So when they realize every single thing that's involved, and it even talks about how to go on vacation, okay? It's really very, very detailed, much more than it was before. And I think that that helps because the people that are sort of on the fence, oh, this sounds like it might be a good thing, might decide, it's a little more than I want to do. Or maybe it's just right now. Sometimes people contact me a couple years later, and I'll say, let's look at it again, or I'll give you a new link, and then you can get a refresher, and I don't charge for the refresher.
Well, we're not first up the hill, we're not last up the hill.
So,
We're
very
climbing
hard.
out.
You're doing great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Do you want to go around the room? Did anybody have anything that they want to discuss? You, John, did you have anything else?
Also, save one for closed session.
My report, whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Everybody's enjoying this warm weather.
No,
Nice meeting
thanks
you.
for asking, it's way too hot.
I'm sure you are having fun.
It's way too hot.
Now we're on, right? There we go.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Well, I wasn't talking, so. I'm gonna keep it short. We were notified by the DEP that the funding's available for the backhoe. We applied for it. We're waiting on some additional information, but that's in progress. We've been given an increase in our state aid, an increase of $46,000. I'm not sure what the total is that we got, but we did have an increase, which is good news. And the auditors have completed their audit session, and we'll be scheduling our exit conference very soon in the next upcoming weeks to go through how we fared. I think we fared pretty well. But that will be in a week or so. And the rest is progress.
Any update on the microphones?
Yes, sad to say that, back to September.
September.
Because of supply chain issues. Even though we have all that equipment in there, there's still more to come.
Wow. Okay, Eleanor's gonna wait till the council meeting. Rich, did you wanna, we'll just go around. Anything?
I just got back from vacation myself, so,
Okay.
but keep it short. Public Works still maintaining the grounds, everything's looking good. Softball is done, baseball is pretty much done. The only thing going on in sports for the kids is the summer basketball program, which is, looks pretty good. Everybody's having a win.
How many kids? A lot of kids.
I would want to say maybe 100.
Wow,
Maybe a
that's
little bit more
great.
around there. I don't have a number, but I know they have about 2 to 3 games every day, Monday through Friday, no weekends. And the rest is probably.
Keep them busy.
I see a lot of people on the big softball field.
As of
How do
right
you sit
now,
on the weekends?
they did at first with practices at their, but as of right now, I'm pretty sure that no games on
I don't
weekends.
know, they signed up for it.
Right, they signed up
Yes.
for it because they knew it was gonna be, but the weekend was, everybody goes away on weekends, so why schedule games? So they figured it was better to schedule games just Monday through Friday.
And St. Teresa's wants to start as soon as they're done.
Right, so
And right
I'll talk to
after,
that.
like April, they're done the 12th, they want to
I
start.
think so,
the
yeah,
13th.
you have, I think you have, yeah, I'll find out exactly, because I don't think there's any, it's just.
And I'm just
there's
waiting
no
on the
playoff
Tuesdays.
schedules and stuff like that, and I'll let you know.
Okay.
Richie, who's on the big field all the time? I see baseball.
Those are,
Senior men.
senior men,
They've been renting them from the RY, they submit their insurance, they follow the rules.
all the ones that go.
They maintain the field.
They're
very
there
well.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they, especially around this time, there's about 2 or 3 weeks, I think 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I came back or not.
Bob?
Just 2 things, reconstruction on Adam Court, Bowers Avenue, Bob Associates submitted the letter to the council recommending the base set concrete, the amount of $256,532 for council improvement, and Bob Association will be coordinating with the contractor and the borough on scheduling the pre-construction.
So the contracts are ready to be signed? Okay.
Also, reconstruction on Forest Avenue, both trucking and paving, was awarded that contract for $200,843 upon council approval and resolution 2293. And, am I stepping on you about Pine Avenue?
Oh, really?
Craig called me and said that Public Works was redoing Pine Avenue. I went over there, it looked really good, very professional. Did a good job.
How's things here?
Yeah, it's
Well,
killer.
I gotta
So,
say,
Richie-
Bobby, Forest Avenue is looking better. They patched that terrible
That's what
sinkhole,
you just said, yes.
They did already?
looking much better.
Well,
But we have about
Did you have the milling machine?
With the new backhoe, we dug out everything, saw cut and dug out everything on Pine Avenue. Then Shared Service from Barrington had their roller. We put it down in lifts. Everybody worked together. We actually put down, I think, 16.43 tons.
Wow.
Now, that's how much asphalt was used on Pine, and what we had a little bit left over is what went on to Forest Avenue. We didn't saw cut that out because that's going to be on the next phase, hopefully within a year. So we're only giving a year patch to it. So we didn't put the
It's better. It
extend.
is better.
I just think around town, what they did is going to really help us save some money, yeah.
Fix it.
And last thing, East Shore Road, I rode by there yesterday, again today, over again, the pavement's up, they put a fence up.
And PSE&G finished their,
Yeah, and I seen some electrical, I don't know if they're going to put lighting along there or not, I didn't see that.
so PSE&G is completely done. That was a planning
I
board.
just heard about it yesterday, so.
Yeah, it looks really good.
We're gonna throw a look at it, make sure we did everything they're supposed
Okay, so
to.
sign off on it and close that out.
Put a black 8-foot fence. Very
Well, that's a
nice.
ravine right there.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay. Oh, that's fine.
So we have sidewalks now, basically from Magnolia all
Yeah.
the way to almost the end of the Evesham Road, we're missing a few areas. Okay, great. Anything else?
No, it's okay.
Great.
I'll just rely on Harry, what he's got going on.
Harry?
Just to backtrack to recreation, girls softball field back dug out by the basketball court, put in a drainage system there to compensate some of the flooding that was going on from the first baseline. We did weed control to all the fields. They're up and running. Been maintaining sprinkler systems. We actually had to turn on the front field at Green Acres and finally dried out.
Wow,
So
took 3 years.
took 3 years, but we had to finally turn that on because it's dying. It's
Turn around?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we've been working diligently on that stuff. Going to Public Works, we talked about Forest Avenue. We've been maintaining everything with the yard waste, recycling and so forth. It's been, now that everybody's grass is turning brown, it's going to slow down a little bit, but right before that, we were doing a lot with the yard waste and so forth. Our numbers were definitely up compared to last year.
Can I stop you on the yard waste just for a second?
Yep.
So I reviewed the ordinances again because my stupidity, I ended up getting calls, and Terry Post called me. So yard waste. Our ordinance does only limits it to 50 pounds. We can allow people to use any can because it only says 50 pounds. The reason I'm concerned is I'm concerned about the green cans that people have bought where I agree that it's more than 50 pounds and your guys should be able to adjust. I mean, I know what happens. People put too much grass in it, it gets too heavy. I've done that myself. But the ordinance does not clarify that the 32 gallons is for the under yard waste. It only says under rubbish. Are you okay with allowing these other cans to possibly be, especially the green cans?
No, because that's where the most of the, our issues are.
Oh,
In Runnemede, the weight of the cans for yard waste.
So can we put a sticker when the weight is over for yard waste?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's how we should do it.
Because most of the time we try getting people to bundle stuff.
Well, it says it in here about 4 foot.
We have 3 residents right now.
Are you saying we'll give them something to do with their cans?
No, I'm saying some of the yard waste cans that people have. I think some of the big cans are just too big to start off with. But yard waste doesn't talk about.
90% of those big cans are contractors that are cutting other people's grass and they bring it to their house.
So if it's over 50 pounds, you push it.
That's terrible.
Yes.
What if it doesn't have handles?
Can't pick it up.
That's the problem. Does it have a handle?
Yeah, they have handles.
They
Okay.
break right off.
But once again, the ordinance does not talk about handles. The ordinance only says
Wait,
weight under yard waste.
Well, maybe we need to amend the ordinance.
Currently, this is what the ordinance says. So if the ordinance currently says this, what I'm saying is we should follow the ordinance.
We
And
can
at
sticker,
least-
but we should amend the ordinance.
Well,
We can sticker
and say at least it
it.
should have handles. Is that all you're asking for? Well, you can have a copy. and review it. And then, yeah, rubbish, I'm fine with everything on rubbish. The questions that I've gotten, now I've defended everything that we've said. I talked about the difficulties and the contracts we have and all that. The yard waste, I agree, we just need to follow the ordinance, and I think the rubbish will do it, and I'll take all the cuts. It doesn't bother me.
what did the Curry Post want?
So I got a phone call, I really didn't believe it was the Courier Post, and they asked me a bunch of questions, and I answered all the questions. And then the guy went and put it in the newspaper, everything that I said.
Dude, why you calling? He's looking for a story?
He said he was writing a story about trash.
So he called you?
Delran has had big problems with Republic Services. There's been weeks they have not had their trash picked up. There's been other towns that are having trash
But
problems.
those mayors were smart enough not to answer the phone.
But just with us, with the ordinance coming along, with what happened with the Belmar worker and stuff, you know, being cut.
And I did say that,
Yeah,
correct?
yes, you did.
I did say that.
So it's just, but trash is becoming a real problem all over. And it's unfortunate that this happened, it's bad timing, but.
And we just happened to send a notice out at the same time.
Everybody notices when you pull up to a store, there's no place to put your trash in, but they don't want your trash. Keep your trash, take it home.
I could never understood why people, stores put trash cans out,
You don't understand why they don't.
why they do.
Cost, the cost now.
Because it gets filled up, it's more work for them.
You know, I've actually thought, if you talk about changing ordinances, we've talked in the past about requiring business owners to put trick cans in front of their properties to limit the amount of trash that gets thrown all over. So I agree, it's a lot of work.
So continuing on public works.
Yeah, sorry.
Going to your trash, one thing we have noticed, the staff has talked about, is with the bag ban, we're not seeing the bags around the RYAA as we did in the past, and also at Green Acres.
The plastic bags, because they're not giving out plastic bags. It's working.
So that, we just wanted to note that we actually see a big difference with that.
I noticed, I go back and forth down Fiberglass Road, you know, I go down Davis to Tree, fiberglass, long fiberglass on there. When I go to Home Depot, there's no bags. There's very little trash along that whole fence along the turnpike compared to what it used to be.
So with that also, we have some staffing issues. We lost another employee last week. So with that, we have 2 applicants we're working on interviewing that possibly looking for next week appointments. So we'll forward to you.
Did you lose them to injury or quit?
Quit due to like the new job position that we passed the resolution for last time.
Didn't we pass that resolution for him?
Yes.
And he didn't like?
He didn't like it, so he departed.
Oh, wow.
With that, we still have to discuss, since you've been away on vacation and our CFO's been under a little weather and so forth, Forest Avenue, with the conditions of Forest Avenue, we've been soliciting quotes.
I heard you came up with something.
And working with that, we have a whole thing with that, but it's going to be funding. So
What's the total now?
we are looking at,
How many proposals did you get?
well, we're going directly from the manufacturer for the pumps. And with that, we are looking at 2 quotes for the labor work. And we're at approximately, I hate to say this, but the DEP refund from the backhoe.
140?
Less than that. No, we're only receiving 100 from the backhoe.
Oh,
It's only up to 100,000.
so you could do this whole Forest Avenue for 100,000?
Yes.
Is that labor?
That's labor and pumps. Install new
2 pumps?
What you remember his original price was a couple 100,000? I take we
Not
do,
mine, it was Mark's.
Wait a minute, is that also where there runs a backup and you can just, it's already piped in and you just switch the piping or something?
Right now, we're worried about the emergency part. We're replacing 2 pumps to get the station back up and running. And then after that, we'll go
do all that,
into
retrofit.
buying a secondary pump for backup to have in stock and the emergency bypass.
So
We
how
have to
much, how much is,
Under 100,000.
It's good.
wow.
So the money-
Last I heard, it was almost 200,000.
We were looking at putting in.
a whole new pump system. This is refurbishing existing pumps. You okay with all that?
That's great.
Okay.
That's great. Now, this will go what, maybe 5, 10 years? How,
No, much more than
This is
that.
a 50-year fix.
a 50-year fix?
Yeah, we're not doing a Band-Aid.
He's pulling all the guts out and putting everything back
Long
in.
after we're gone out.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful.
So,
I am just so happy because I heard that we wouldn't be able to do it.
Now, Shelley has to find the money.
Oh.
We're looking at, you know, clerk salary wage,
We
police
already
salary
did.
wage.
Move the desk around.
We already did.
Boxes, filing cabinets.
Legal.
Thank you,
Legal fees.
thank you for finding the money.
All right,
So Harry,
So-
we can thank Harry too. I found him a grant. He took care of the application. So
There you go. Look at that.
This is the best news
Teamwork.
yet, because
It's all teamwork.
everything was.
that's right.
there's no lie.
You didn't like this meeting so far?
Second behind the second.
But with that, upon getting the quotes, seeing which one's cheaper and so forth like that in the next week, we might be, because of the timing of it, material availability and the circuit board, we might be looking at, with Mark and Steve, to deem it as an emergency,
Well, you're going to do it as an emergency.
to move forward with this. So I'd like to get everything together, the
Because
resolution.
we only have one pump, and that's against the rules to have one.
For next Tuesday, or Wednesday.
Wednesday.
For next Wednesday.
Sounds good?
Wonderful, wonderful,
We're
wonderful.
moving,
Thank you, Mark.
moving very quickly with
Thanks for
this.
some good news today.
This is good news, this is wonderful
You
news.
see all your banners on the pipe? You see all the...
You know, I didn't want to say anything. The banners are nice, but
You didn't like the noise, that's all right.
I love them, I think they're adorable.
it's the first time I was, you know,
I think they're darling.
my darling. All right, anything else?
So with that progress,
Okay, Mr. Basin?
Thank you, Harry. That's the best news, that Forest Avenue.
Okay. What did he say?
Geez,
You want a microphone?
it's gloom and
Everybody
doom.
can hear you.
It was gloom and doom, remember?
Yeah.
I submitted my report in writing. Bob covered a lot of it. I got some things that's hotter off the press than what he had. The contracts are here for those two projects. The Bowers Avenue and Manor Court, the DOT project, pre-construction meeting is scheduled for next Thursday, August 4th at 10 o'clock a.m. And the Forest Avenue project, I'm trying to schedule that pre-con meeting for 10:30, so they'll be back to back. I'm still waiting for the contractor to get back to me on that, but hopefully I'll send out the notification of the pre-construction meeting tomorrow. Like I said, we're trying to do it for 10 and 10:30 next Thursday. Municipal aid application, we got that submitted last month, and you passed the supporting resolution. I uploaded that to the DOT PMRS system. The next step is for the mayor to go into the PMRS and sign off that we put the resolution in right, and then Joyce has to go in and say what you did was right. So
I'll do it tomorrow.
that has to be by Friday.
I'll sign these and get that done.
Forest Avenue Pump Station, Harry just talked about, that we're looking to have that deemed an emergency. I will have that taken care of tomorrow. The Runnemede Lake Park Trail, I looked at the bridge sketch that was sent to me. They're using 2x4 joists in some locations. Those all have to be updated to 4x4. I will get a letter out documenting what our requirements are.
To Russ, we get it out to Russ.
Yes.
Well, that's great.
And then it'll be approved.
You know, we still have to go through
But that's-
Borough.
we're almost there.
Something from us saying that the boardwalk from bridges 5 and 6 is what we're talking about.
Great.
I'm gonna say,
They were talking about trying to get Bridge 1 approved through DEP, but we're a long way away from that. And this is just for that.
Well, we wanted to get
we'll have two of them.
You'll CC me on that, right?
Yes, I will. Eastern Road sidewalk they talked about, and that is everything. Okay. So I thank Bob for going over my report.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. There you go.
Shelley, did you have anything? No? Dan?
Chickens, murals, and the rest is progress.
Okay. Beth, you enjoying these meetings?
Exciting times, huh?
I'm not gonna ask Joyce.
It's all important,
No, no,
John. It's
no.
all important, buddy.
It is.
All right.
Okay, so at this portion, what we're going to do is going to open it up to the public before we go into closed session. But I do want to let Dan know that we may come out of closed session and do business. So it's up to you if you want to stay till the end. But I figure our closed session will give ourselves at least 25 minutes for the discussion. Does anybody want to come? This portion of the meeting is open to the public. Anyone wishing to speak, please come to the microphone, state your name and address. Seeing no one, is there a motion to close the public?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Kelly.
Second.
By Mr. Ranieri. All in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
All right, the public portion is closed. This would be Resolution 2297. It's to go into closed session for no more than 25 minutes to discuss the shared service agreement with
Approximately 25 minutes.
approximately 25 minutes to discuss the EMS shared service proposal. Would someone like to make a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Neary, second by Mr. Lobenstein. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're in the closed session. We're just going to stay out here if you guys don't mind.